Alright, what's good YouTube? Gentleman Thomas here back with a WPF video, and yes, this is gonna be our Season 8 draft analysis. We are continuing our long streak of being in WPF. I've been there since Season 1 and all the seasons so far. I'm actually kind of a little bit proud of it myself. I really like this league a lot. I've met a bunch of really nice people in it, so I definitely will continue being in the WPF. And you know what? I also want to continue making videos on it because I do really enjoy doing this. Now, I'm gonna give you a quick 3-second spoiler alert about last season. If you haven't watched it and you want to watch what happened in the last season, at least just the final game, I recommend watching it. It's a really good game, but also it's kind of crazy. But I'm gonna give you the 3-second warning now. 3, 2, 1. So in the last season, we actually ended up getting our very first championship. We won the B Division finals. Even making to the finals was such a surprise to me personally, because we barely made playoffs. Like, we only made playoffs because another team lost, I believe. That's the only reason we made playoffs. And then to go on a run where we win it all, it's just amazing to me. I personally think in the quarterfinals and semifinals, I played very well. In the finals, I got a little bit lucky. I will 100% say that I got a little bit lucky. But I also think that's probably one of the most memorable things I've ever achieved in Pokemon. Not necessarily winning, but more so the way it happened. Like, getting a sweep like that is insane, and I've never done like a true comeback sweep like that before. Uh, I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy about it. But now we are in A Division because we promoted from B Division, of course. So we're gonna meet a lot of tough opponents. Like, B Division was tough as hell. So I feel like A Division is gonna be even tougher. So we definitely have to play out of our mind. I think we have a slightly I don't know. We might have a slightly better team this season compared to last season if you look at it from a neutral perspective. But I just think last season I had so much more of an straight up idea on what I wanted to do with the team, where this time around there's definitely some pieces here and there that just kind of doesn't make sense. Now, as last season, we had a total of 115 points. So the max tier was 18 points, and then it, of course, goes all the way down to 1 point. Total of 115 to draft. I believe it's 9 to 11 Pokemon, I believe it is. We had the third pick overall, which actually made me very happy because there was one mon I wanted very much. I've not gotten to use it yet since it came out, and I kind of the number 1 and number 2 pick, I talked with them a little bit about what they wanted to make sure. Okay, do they want this mon I want? They didn't want it. Okay, I can make a plan around it. I did. The plan didn't quite execute as I wanted. I actually got sniped quite a lot this time around compared to last season. It's a snake style draft format, so that means we get our third pick, and then we go all the way down to coach number 16, and then we go all the way from coach number 16 up to us again, and then we go coach 2 and 1, and then 1 and 2, and us again. So the first mon I wanted was a mon I knew that could put on the pressure. It's a good offensive mon. It's gonna punch holes through my opponent's teams, quite literally, because it is a Shifu single strike. So a Shifu single strike style is probably, arguably, the best offensive mon there is right now in draft format. You can argue a couple of others, like Tornadus Therian with Nasty Block can be really good. There are other mons that can definitely be up there, but I think as a mon you put in and you nuke something with it, I think a Shifu single strike style is probably the best one, just because even if your opponent tries to set up with like a defensive variant, you can just punch right through it with Wicked Blow. Other than that, Urshifu gets some pretty decent utility. It gets U-turn to get out of the matchup. It can bulk up. It can, of course, substitute, because almost all mons get substitute. Unfortunately, it doesn't get stuff like Toxic and whatnot because it is a Gen 8 mon. Actually, it doesn't get. I don't think it gets Toxic, at least. It might do. I actually don't know. It gets a pretty good range of coverage moves, and typically you don't need coverage move that much because of Wicked Blow. Like, Wicked Blow always creating means that even a Fairy type is taking quite a lot. But it does get access to, I think, both Iron Head and Poison Jab, so you can hit most Fairy types with it. A Choice Band or Choice Scarf is typically what a lot of people would do with Urshifu single strike style, but I don't necessarily think that's the best way you can go about it. It is in some matchups. In some matchups, you just want to slap a Choice Band or Choice Scarf on it, and you just go bam, 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 and then you win. Now, as mentioned, we had to wait quite a while for our next pick, and I really wanted Mega Venusaur, and I kid you not, it got taken the pick before me. Deca was right below me. He was fourth pick, so that meant he went just before me on the second round, and he took Mega Venusaur, and I got so like sad, and I was like, no, I really wanted Mega Venusaur, because I really wanted to build a Firewater Grass Core with Mega Venusaur. Heatran got taken as the wheel pick was what it was a little bit weird, but it worked because the coach took it together with Rillaboom, so it definitely made sense. But since Heatran was taken, there were other fire types that could have worked, but I really want to make a Veno and then Rotom Wash. So we still got Rotom Wash because then I just took that instead of Mega Reno. And it turns out Deca also wanted the exact same Firewater Grass Core as I wanted. So he actually got sniped of Rotom Wash from me. It's kind of funny. Rotom Wash, resists the flying types that Urshifu doesn't want to go against. Unfortunately doesn't resist the fairy types. Which Megavino would have done. Like, that's why I really wanted it, because Rotom Wash, Megavino, and Heatran kind of all just take care of the stuff that Urshifu doesn't want to take care of, which it's definitely it's very saddening to me that I didn't end up getting it. But at the same time, I understand Megavino going early. Like, it is arguably one of the better Megamons out there if you know how to play it. Now, with me not getting Megavino, I of course had to find a different grass type, and I will be full on honest with this one. I kind of panic a little bit. I might end up doing some transactions down the line just because this mon doesn't synergize that well with the team, but I'm going to be interested in trying it the first couple of weeks, and that is Tabubulu. Now, I know we're just saying Tabubulu doesn't synergize with Rotom Wash whatsoever, except for resisting flying types in Rotom Wash. There's no synergy at all because, like, it doesn't. Rotom Wash doesn't get the grassy terrain recovery, which it would really much appreciate, but it doesn't get it. And Tabubulu kind of doesn't resist anything really that Rotom Wash wants it to resist. Like, yeah, it does resist grass type. I believe grass does resist grass, but it doesn't do anything to them back. And that's kind of the issue a little bit. Actually, I don't think grass resists grass. I think it's because the poison variant from Megavino and whatnot does. So I might drop Tabubulu for something else at some point. I don't know. I don't know what exactly I want. I have a couple of things I've looked at, but we'll see. I'm interested in Boodle though because you can run it offensively and you can run it defensively, and I honestly don't know which set I would be more fond of. Like defensively with like Leech Seed and like I really wish this thing got knock off. If it got knock off, I would love it so much more, but it doesn't. But Leech Seed substitute can be a devastating set on this mon. It hits really, really hard. Like Wood Hammer from this thing is gonna come at you like a truck. Choice Band can be a really good set. It's a fairy type, and a fairy type is always nice to have, but it's not really the greatest fairy type because it doesn't support the team with its fairy typing all that much. But it was a nice pickup. It's 14 points. I think it's decently valued, but as I said, I don't think it synergizes that well with my team. Now, the next mon I picked up was a mon I personally really wanted. I love this mon to death. It's one of my favorite like pixie mons out there. I think it's the best one of its trio, and that is Aself. I love Aself. Aself is fast, it hits hard, you can set stealth rocks with it, you can do a couple of support shenanigans. But most of all, it's just such a great lead mon. Like, you can lead it with like U-turn and with stealth rocks, you can lead it with explosion, you can lead it with so many stuff. It's a really good U-turn pivot, so we already have 2 U-turners and a Volt Switch mon, so we have a really good momentum on the team already. It's a nice secondary offensive mon to kind of support Urshifu a little bit, because Urshifu is really good at taking down like dark types that Aself can't do much against. Now, Aself isn't great at taking down fairy types, but it can definitely help whittle them down a little bit. And if you U-turn with Aself and they bring in like their dark type or something, it takes super effective damage. You get in Urshifu, and now they have to find a different mon that can take the Urshifu hit. So it's definitely a good little U-turn momentum core there. I got my first Stealth Rock mon. And I have a defog user and a Stealth Rock set as well. That's right. I always like to have some hazards, even though I don't think hazard is as important anymore as it once were, which is very much exemplified in my next mon, which is Moltres. So, as I mentioned, I originally wanted Heatran, but Heatran got taken very early, so I kind of had to find a different mod. I got oh, sorry. My throat is getting a dry a little bit because this is. I'll full on admit this is my third take doing this. I found one mistake after the other the first two times, so I'm just gonna take a sip of water. Just a sec. Okay, so as I said, I wanted Heatran. Heatran got taken way earlier than I thought it would. Heatran would actually have been quite nice with Bulu, because that would have been really good combination. Then Rotom as just the extra mon. Now, Moltres doesn't unfortunately get the benefit of grassy terrain, but it does get access to Roost, which is kind of nice. Um, but mostly of all, it gets access to Flame Body. And any physical fighting type that want to get in against Urshifu to kill it, if I swap in Moltres and they click a move that actually hits, I have a chance to Flame Body burn them and make them so much weaker. So Moltres surprisingly synergizes really well with Rotom with a Shifu. So as I said, any physical mon that want to touch the Shifu, I can bring in Moltres hoping to burn them. Moltres 4 times resist the grass types that want to attack Rotom. Rotom is neutral to electric, which isn't great, but it's not terrible either. It's pretty good against rock types. While it doesn't resist them, it's of course super effective against them. And the same goes for Tapu Bulu. So even though my Firewater Grass Core is not as good as I would have liked it to be, I think it's pretty decent. I definitely think Bulu probably is the most like lost, and not in like a singular mon, but just in synergy on the team at all. Because as you can see here, I already had 3 mons above the ground and 1 mon on it, so I don't really use the grassy terrain all that much. But I'm very interested in using Moltres. Like, it can also be a really good offensive mon. It's a second defogger, and with heavy duty boots, Moltres doesn't have to worry that much about stealth rocks anymore. I just have to watch out for knockoff users, but that's just gonna be in my head, like who has knockoff, who can carry knockoff, and how do I get around it. Now, the next one on the team was a mon I kind of wanted to use as well, but it's also because Heatran, as again, like losing Heatran actually hurt a little bit more than I thought it would. Because it was also going to be my steel, of course, and I had to find a different steel. And Reggie Steel, which was one of the ones I thought of, got taken a little bit before me, so I had to come up with a different one. And I actually ended up picking Bronzong. I really love Bronzong. I think Bronzong is a really good mon. It's slightly better offensively than Registeel, but then slightly worse defensively. Other than that, they do very much the same thing. While Registeel gets access to Thunder Wave, you get access to Trick and stuff like that with Bronzong. Bronzong can also run like Gyro Ball, and Gyro Ball is often a little bit more powerful than like Iron Hit or Heavy Slam from a Registeel. Well, Registeel doesn't get Heavy Slam, I think. I think it only gets Iron Hit. So it's a little bit better of a fairy breaker. Because I'm running grassy terrain, I can actually run heat. Is it heat armor? I think it's called. I think it's heat armor or something like that, making it a heat proof. Heat proof. It's heat proof. Duh, I'm dumb. It's heat proof. Heat proof, making it so I can't get I can't take as much damage from fire type moves as I normally would. I still get hit, of course, but it's not super effective. It's just neutral, I believe is what it makes. And grassy terrain then prevents my opponent from running earthquake. Yes, they can still run high horsepower, and high horsepower is gonna hurt like a mother. But it is what it is. Bronzong is also one of those mons that if I end up dropping Bulu, I could drop Bronzong as well, just to kind of gain some points and figure out what I'm gonna do. But I'm kind of happy about it. I'm kind of interested in using it. It's a secondary stealth rocker. It's going to be really good for the team, I think. Next on the team, we needed a little bit of special bulk. Like, we have a lot of mons that are like mixed bulk or physical bulk. But like Rotom and Moltres are typically better in physical defensive roles rather than especially defensive. So we needed a mon that can kind of just go in and sit there and be fat on the special side. And that mon is Gudra. So not only is Gudra fat on the special side with base 150 special defense, it is also quite good offensively. Like 110 special attack and 100 physical attack is nothing to scoff at. 80 speed is like whatever. It's okay. It's not terrible. I would honestly have preferred in Gudra's design that they have given like 60 speed and then put the additional 20 points into its physical defense, so it would have been like this defensive monster. But I also think that might actually have made Gudra almost too good, because it's already really good. The only issue is like it's not fast, of course. and it is a little bit frail on the physical side, but I think I make up for its physical weaknesses fairly well. Like any physical fairy type that doesn't get access to a rock type move, Moltres is going to sit in front of. Any physical dragon type, Bronzong is going to sit in front of unless they have like Earthquake. But then again, I can run Levitate if I want to. So I definitely think there's a pretty good synergy here to kind of cover Gudra's weaknesses a little bit. And Gudra can, for most part, take a super effective hit if I want to, and then hit back with like Draco Meteor. A mixed offensive set with Gudra is also very, very nice to run. Like you can run Draco Meteor with 3 physical attacks, so you can spam Draco Meteor, and then you won't really lose anything from your other attacks because they're going to be physical. Gudra has some really good abilities. It gets Sap Saber to support Roran Wash a bit. It gets GUI if we want to try and slow down the opponent, which can be very nice to GUI Amon and then bring in a Shifu, because now Shifu outspeeds and it can just bop them with a Wicked Blow. So I think there's some pretty good synergy going around. The only Mon, again, is like Bulu doesn't really synergize all that well, but it is what it is. Bulu synergizes with Gutra. Gutra is probably one of the better Mons to utilize the grassy terrain. So that is definitely something I'm looking forward to. Now, my next pick is kind of like I wanted Gengar originally because Gengar would have been a nice fairy killer and would have really put pressure on the special side together with a Shifu on the physical side. Azelf can kind of do both, but it is a little bit better specially, so I still have pressure there. But Gengar got taken, so I needed a different fairy killer. I needed a mon that whenever it's in a fairy type, it's like, nah, I'm out of here, see you later. And that mon is Mega Beedrill. So Mega Beedrill, this is my very first time I'm ever using it, and I'm 50-50 on it. So as you can already kind of tell, my team isn't the greatest at removal so far. I have Rotom, I have Moltres, which are both pretty decent removers, but they aren't amazing. Like, they aren't great. Rotom is pretty good removal. But Moltres is kind of iffy, and of course, Mega Beetle itself can be a remover, but you don't want to run Defog Mega Beetle, never. So even though it's a really good fairy killer, it is unfortunately weak to rocks, and I can run heavy duty boots on it, so that really just hinders a little bit. It's a nice, amazing high speed tier mon. Like 145 is, it's perfect. It's kind of what the team just needed a little bit. It gets access to sword stance, and you can you can run poison jab, X scissor, but of course you can also run U-turn. Adaptability makes those moves hits so goddamn hard. It gets coverage in knockoff and drill run. Like, if you can get Beetle in and get a sword stance up, not a lot of mons actually kind of takes a hit that well. And even then, you can just U-turn out with a +2 adaptability U-turn, and that still hurts most mons. So I'm very interested in using Beetle. I think it's gonna put in work. I think the U-turn momentum together with a Shifu and Volt Switch with Rotom and U-turn with Azelf and Moltres is gonna be nice for this team. It's gonna be exactly what we want. Being able to get in our big threats as fast as possible. And then we have a good assortment of like fat mons to kind of soak up the hits. Some of them can be a little bit better at like stalling out some mons if we need to. So I think the team so far is looking very nice, except for like a little bit of a synergy problem here and there. Now, next up, I wanted a mon to kind of soak up some of the electric hits, because right now our only electric resistance is Gudra. And while Gudra is a good electric resistance, there is a couple of physical electric type out there that kind of run through a team a little bit, named Serora. So we needed something that can kind of soak up those hits, and something I generally just enjoy using. Plus, a ground type on this team kind of needs to not rely on Earthquake because we have Tababulu. So we ended up picking up Palosand. Now, Palosand is one of my low-key favorite mons to kind of use. I've used it once before. I know when it is only once, you're like, how can it be one of your favorites? Well, I just remember using it. I remember it being like a ground type that kind of just stuck out to me. You know, it's one of the few ground types that actually gets recovery and show up outside of like the Gligar line, and I guess Hippowdon with Slack Off. It's really good like value pick for 7 points. It's a mixed ghost type, so we are a little bit weak to knock off because Moltres doesn't want to take it. Bronzong isn't the greatest, and then Palosan. But we have Bulu can take it. We have Rotom Wash that can kind of take it, and to some extent Gudra, but Gudra sometimes do run an item it doesn't want to lose. Now, Palosan is also, of course, our third Stealth Rock setup. And probably right now we have two really amazing stealth rock setters and an okay one. So I'm kind of happy with that. I don't think I need that much more hazards setting anymore, because I think Bronzon or Palosan are probably gonna come to, like, one of them are gonna come almost every week. They are the kind of ones where you can kind of swap around which one of them is gonna come. Yes, they're both weak to dark, and that's the unfortunate part. But that is also why I'm probably looking into getting a different steel type, so it won't be as weak to like knock off and dark in general. Other than that, Palosan also hits pretty decently hard. I believe it's 100 special attack, which is not bad. It gets a pretty interesting range of moves. It gets like Giga Drain. Um, it got access to Scorching Sands. I'm pretty sure it did. So it definitely can be a pretty good utility mod. I think for 7 points, it's a very valuable ground type, and you get the additional of a ghost typing if you kind of needed it, which we didn't mind it, but we didn't need it. Now, next up, as I said, Tabubulu is a decent fairy type, but it's not really like, you don't draft Tabubulu in the intention of it being a good fairy type, because it first of all doesn't get a physical fairy type move, which sucks. Like, that is so unfortunate. Give it play rough, please. So I wanted a mon that can kind of fill out the role of a fat fairy type. We needed a little bit of a wish passer, because Rotom doesn't get recovery. Bulu does get recovery, but you don't always want to run it. Bronzong doesn't get recovery. Guta doesn't get recovery. So we wanted a mon that can kind of pass around some wishes, heal up our mons. It can be fat. It can set up Trick Room if we want to run like Trick Room type of Bulu could be a thing, because Bulu can be pretty slow. And that mon is Aromatisse. So Aromatisse is a cleric for the team. We get Heal Bell, we get Wish. It's a pretty decent Calm Mind setter. It can be a pretty decent defensive mon. I believe it gets screens as well. So now we have a couple of screens mon. Rotom gets screens. Aromatisse gets screens. I believe Aself or Bronzong also gets screens. So we have options for that as well. And other than that, picking up Aromatisse means that if I drop Bulu, I don't have to try and find a fairy type, because fairy types are one of the typing that goes away very fast. So all of a sudden, none of them are left when a draft is over. So having an additional one that makes it so I don't have to worry about that should I drop Tababulu is very nice. It's kind of a calming sense for me. And it's pretty cheap. Like, I think for 6 points, Aromatisse is worth it. Is it the best fairy type ever? No. Is it gonna come to every game? No. Is it gonna come to a couple of games and do pretty well? Probably, because I have played with it once before, and I kind of know what to do with it. Like, you don't bring this in the expectation of it sweeping anyone or getting any kills, but it's here to back up the team. It's here to kind of just be fat and be a fairy type, basically. Now, towards the end, if you can do math here, you can kind of tell I have a little bit of some points left. I didn't know what to pick. I didn't really need anything. I kind of wanted a normal type at some point, but all the normal types I wanted got picked, and I didn't want to just take a valuable normal type just for the sake of having a normal type. I'd rather have a mon that could bring something to the team, and that mon is Shuckle. So Shuckle is the kind of mon that I'm probably only going to bring into 1 or 2 games, but when it comes, you best believe it has Stealth Rocks and it has Sticky Whips. Like, and if I can get Sticky Whips off and my opponent doesn't have good removal, Urshifu is going to go in against that team. Like, Urshifu is going to say, oh, you don't have removal? Okay, let me just band myself. Ha! Wiggle blow. Ha! Wiggle blow. So I definitely think the option for Sticky Whips is also going to be something that can kind of pressure my opponents a little bit. And you know what? Maybe Shuggle is going to come more often than I think, because I think overall, if I remember correctly, removal isn't the greatest in this division. In general, we didn't draft the best removers. I think there's like 1 or 2 teams that have really good removal, and that's it. So bringing sticker reps with Shuggle might actually be a thing I can see myself do. It gives so much more access to a Shiva to go in. It gives access to Aself to go in. It gets access to Rotom to run like Nasty Plot. It's also really just a defensive powerhouse Shuggle. Like, you can, if you bring Shuggle, you can always go in against the mon and you can just kind of just sit there. Yeah, you are a little bit prone to set up. If they run like substitute sword stance, you definitely have to watch out for that. But if they don't run substitute, you're gonna run encore, encore, Wow, I cannot speak right. Encore, and basically just make sure they sword stance, swap in whatever mon can kill them, and then they have to swap out because they're locked into sword stance. But yeah, Shockla's my last pick. Again, this might also be a mon I drop just because I don't need it. Like it doesn't provide me with much I need. Yes, it's a rock type mon, but it's a rock type mon that doesn't resist flying, so it's a little bit whatever. But yeah, this is my team. I'm fairly happy about it. As I said, there's a couple of things here and there, like Tababulu, Ronsong, and Shoggle are like the most mons. Are the mons I'm most likely to drop and try and find something else. But as always, if you like the video, make sure to leave a like on the video. Leave a comment down below what you think of my team. And if you're part of the league and you can see the document, feel free to make any suggestions to what I should pick up and what I should drop. I'm kind of down to listen to most things. I think Urshifu, Rotom, and Aself are maybe the only ones I kind of don't want to lose. Maybe Moltres a little bit. I do like the idea of Moltres as well. But the rest of the mods, I'm down to like listen. Even like Mega Beedrill and Goodra and whatnot, I'm down to listen. And if you could give me an actual explanation as to why I should, I might do it. And as always, subscribe to the channel for future videos. And with that, I'm out. Peace, YouTube.